Hey there, and welcome to the first part of my Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition tutorials. My name is KOKOStern, and if you have no idea what we're doing here, then go check out the introductory video that I did for this entire thing. So this is the first part. It's going to be UI, and we're going to talk about the actual UI of the game. So we're going to talk about each and every one of the screens here. And this is the actual game screen. This is the first one. It's called Return to Game. And the first thing we want to talk about is actually this area right here. We can see the pause, unpause, and unpause. And we're going to talk about the two most important keys of Baldur's Gate. And those are the space bar that does exactly that, pauses and unpauses the game, and the tab key. So this is a real-time game. As you can see, I'm moving in real time and real things are happening. There's even actually a diseased gibberling here. They're going to let my characters destroy. That was really quickly. And you can see that everything that happens in the game, you can see right here. It gives you information. And since I have lots of party members, right now I have 4. I'm not going to spoil the story or anything. This is really the beginning. I have 4 party members, and I want to control all of them and give them different commands. So pause the game, do whatever you want, and continue. Now, the important thing to note here is that if you move on to different screens, the game remains in whatever state that you left it on. So right now the game is paused. If I go up to the map screen and I tell my characters, I double-clicked it, and I tell my characters to move in this direction, and right now I'm paused, I'll unpause and I go back to the map screen. We can see the characters actually moving. Okay? So pause or unpause, whatever you did on the other screens, the game is going to continue. So that's important to note. Now, another thing to note is that when you quick save, which is I just did right now by pressing Q, and the game is paused, I'm going to load, the game continues immediately. So that's another thing to note. So that's the pause button, that's the space bar. The second button that we said is the most important one is tab. When I press it, I get information. Basic information is just the HP of my team members, but if I actually go on something, it gives me specific information to it. This is Imoen, and she has 8 out of 8 HP. Now, this actually works on UI elements as well. If I go over here and press tab, I see that this is the inventory. And if I go into my inventory and press something, such as this potion of healing, it tells me that it's a potion of healing by pressing tab. So use tab for pretty much everything. If there's an enemy next to you, and you press tab on it, it's going to give you an estimation of how much HP it has. So it's uninjured, or maybe it's badly injured, or maybe it's near death. So that's an estimation of how much you've actually hurt, because you can't see the exact number because it's not your character, but that's an estimation, so that's really useful. So tab and space, the two most important buttons. Other things that we want to talk about in this screen. Let's press on my main character, that's called KOKOStern, lovely name, and it's a mage. So if we check down here, the buttons that we have here, we actually have 12 buttons that correspond to F1, if I'll manage to press F1, up to F12. That's the shortcuts. You can change key bindings in the options. Not that you really should need to, but that's always an option. So that's F1 to F12. And since I'm a mage, I have cast spell. That makes sense. If I switch over to Imoen, which is a thief, I have, damn it, stealth. And I have thieving. And I have things that are relating to my actual character. And if I hold more than one character, I just press shift and press the other character. So shift works just like any strategy game that you might know. Then I obviously get the default ones, which are just talk, attack, and stop. And if I'm pressing lots of characters, I also get the formations here. So I can choose the formation. Right now I'm holding right-click, and I can turn around to whatever location I want to, and I can change the formation so it looks different and whatnot. So an important thing to note here that most people just miss, this is just a little tip, is this part, which is use item, and this part, which is special abilities. People forget that these exist, and they're actually there for every character. And what they mean, use item, is items that you actually have on your character, such as, let's say, a cloak that lets you charm animal. You can use it through this tab. It'll be pressable, clickable, and then you have that actual cloak. People forget that they have those abilities, and it's important to remember them. Another thing is, again, the special abilities. Most characters, pretty much all characters, have some sort of special ability, such as this guy, yeah, he also has set snare, and this guy does not have anything. But characters have special abilities. You can find them here, use them, they can be incredibly useful. Specifically your main character, who might have special abilities that he'll get throughout the game, not ruining any story or whatever, but that will happen. So this is the game tab, and now we're going to go over the additional screens. So the first one is map. Not much to understand here. This is the map. A black is unexplored area. If I double clicked somewhere and it sends me there, and right now I'm paused. I cannot actually go to a location. I'm on my first character. I can't actually go to a location that I haven't seen, but I can go next to it, and then it will be explored. If my character move there, you can see that areas are being explored. Now, once you've explored the entire map, this becomes very comfortable because you can press the map button. I pressed M, double click wherever you want, press it, and if on pause, my characters actually move over there. So that's very comfortable, and that will center around character. So that's the map. Another thing we have in the map is here, it shows you different important locations. You can actually create locations as well by right-clicking, if it'll work for me. Right-click. Okay, for some reason it doesn't work right now, but this game still has bugs, though it's the enhanced edition, but whatever, we're going to ignore that. The important part, another part is at the top here, we can see the entire world map of Baldur's Gate. This is actually the city of Baldur's Gate that you can access right now. When you reach the edges of any map, you have the ability to move to other locations that you've already discovered. We'll talk about this later on in the tips section, but we can actually see a couple of areas right now, and this will fill out with other areas that you'll discover. This is just the world map of the game. So, other than that, that's the map, and now we're going to go over to the journal. Not much to understand here. Cesar and Montreon are people that I just picked up, and they have a quest for me. So you can collapse and expand these areas, and Cesar and Montreon wish me to travel to Nashkel. So, Nashkel, am I saying correctly? Oh well. So these are basic quests, and usually you have about a paragraph of what you need to do. Now the thing is, it doesn't always explain everything you need to know. So if you go up to a person and he tells you, I want you to get that item for me from that place, and you go over to the journal and look at the quest, and it might say, you need to get that item for that person. But it doesn't say where. And when you talk to the person, he did say where. So it's not always written here. And if you pay attention to these things, you might want to go over to the user button right here and add your own text. So this is really, really useful in that sense. Who would have thought a journal that you can actually write in? Insane. So people don't use this. This can actually be used also for putting down lists of things that you need to do, that you want to do, like do this quest, and when I go over to that location, do that and that. So it can be useful. This is the quest, done quests. I obviously haven't done much, so there's nothing here. And the journal is pretty much just flavor text that is written down in important parts of the main story. That's the journal part right here. So let's move on to the inventory. The inventory is where we start seeing all kinds of numbers that we're not going to talk about here, but in the second part, what we can see is this is your actual character. You obviously have armor, helm, boots, rings, whatever you can place on him. Quiver, quick items, which can be pretty much anything from potions to wand to scrolls, and the quick weapons that will, both of these quick things, you will see them on the actual bar right here. You can see that I have the dagger and the sling, and the quick items. If I go to the inventory, it's the quick items and the quick weapons. This is useful. My character is a mage, so I only have 2 quick weapons, and this guy, well, pretty much everyone only have 2, but fighters, as an example, have 4, and it's a difference between characters. So, we are going to talk about one specific number, and that's the number right here. So your inventory is limited by 2 things. First, the amount of things that you can actually hold here. Each thing is a thing. So each scroll is considered one thing, and it doesn't matter what the size of the person is. You can actually, in some points of the game, you actually carry an entire body, and it still occupies just one slot. So these are the amount of slots that you have. And the second thing is obviously weight. My character is a weakling. It only has 6 strength, so it can carry only 30 LBS, which is really, really a weakling. This character, on the other hand, has 16 strength. Again, we're going to talk about exactly what each number means later on, but it's stronger. It can carry 150 LBS. Now, this means that even though I still have additional space, I can't carry as much. So we're going to take a look at this. I right-click any item and I get a description. Obviously, there's flavor text and then more numerical representation of the item, if you will. And there's the weight, and this weighs 25. And if I move it on to the other person, to my character, I'm now with red. I'm over 30, and if I'll go to the screen and actually right-click my character, I'll tell it to move. Encumbered cannot move. Haven't even paused, but I cannot move because I am encumbered. So that's the second limitation. And again, even if I had a ton of scrolls and they all weigh absolutely nothing, if I'm full here, you can't carry any more. Now, an important thing that people forget is that your character can actually hold things. So let's say I have a ton, this is entirely full and I want to add one additional thing, I can put the armor on and then I have space. So with armor, obviously it's not really relevant, but let's say you've stolen a lot from people and you have lots of rings that you just want to sell for money. And each character, and you don't have room, and each character can hold 2 rings. And if it's not, even if it's not a special ring that actually does something, it can be just a normal ring that you want to sell, but this is inventory space for you. So remember to use that, as well as quick items, as well as quick weapons, quivers, everything. Your character can also hold inventory items. This is important because you will run out of inventory space. Trust me in this game. So that's the inventory. An additional thing that we want to talk about the inventory is we're going to go back actually to the game screen right here. So I'm actually controlling my main character right here. And I'm going to press Imo and I'm going to control her. Now, a more comfortable way to use it is hotkeys. So I pressed 1 and I'm controlling my character. And I press 2 and I'm controlling Imoen. 3, 4, obviously you have up to 5 and 6 because you can have 6 characters maximum. And 7 actually gives me the top 2. 8 gives me the middle. 9 is the bottom. 0 actually gives me the 3. Minus gives me the bottom 3, and equals gives me the entire party. We're talking about the numbers bar from 1 to equals on your actual keyboard. So you're not going to use anything other than 1 to 6 and equals. That's what I use anyways. So why is this so useful other than really controlling units? Let's go back, pause the game, and go back to the inventory screen. We still have the portraits here, and we can still switch around with just the keys. Now, this is not only incredibly useful in terms of looking at your inventory, but what I did before, I pressed an item, and I went over to the portrait and pressed Imoen. That's a waste. I pick up the item, and I press 1, and I'm over at my character. So that's all you have to do. You pick it up, and then you can switch to whoever you want and put it down. This is incredibly useful, and you will be using and changing your inventory between characters all the time. So remember to use this because it's so useful and people aren't aware that you can actually do this. And this goes for any other screen, and we're going to see the other screen as well, that you can, that talks about a specific character, such as spells. And Mage Spells, I can press 1, 4, both of them are mages, so I can switch between them, it's comfortable. So that's the inventory screen. Remember to use the trick. And other than that, the numbers we'll discuss in the second part. And let's go over to the record. Now, the record, we have a ton of numbers. We're not going to discuss any of them right now. That'll be in the second part. Like we said, about 15 times till now, I believe. So we do have buttons that are important here. The first one is information. It just gives you general information that can be nice to look at, but that's not really relevant. Kit description explains what the class is. I'm a wild mage, so I press kit description, and I get a description of what a wild mage is. Incredibly useful if you forgot or you want to remember specific something, or in terms of classes, dual classing and multi-classing and other things like that, which we will get to eventually. So this is just a reminder. Customize talks about all kinds of customization options that aren't really important. In terms of your main character, you have everything. In terms of other characters, you have only the script. The script refers to how they will act in combat. The thing is, you usually want to control them yourself, so scripts, the default is just keep attacking. If you've killed something, keep attacking, and doesn't really matter. Your main character you can also export, and this is really important to do after you've actually created the character. You want to immediately export it so that you can return to it, or you have that character saved at level 1 as a character that you can always play. So once you finish creating your character, the first thing you do, go export that, because it's important. You just export, file name, whatever, and done. This character actually already has, it's a wild mage. I already exported it, so I can't do it again. The most important button on the record is Reform Party. Right now I have 4 party members, myself and 3 other, and you can have up to 6. The thing is that there are about, 20-something companions in this game, and if you want to remove someone, this is how you do it. You just go to the record, Reform Party, and then you can remove whoever you want. So some people ask, that's how you remove people from your party, and they will be mad if you remove them because they're angry. Why would you remove them? So that's that. The other 2 parts that we have is Mage Spells and Priest Scrolls. I don't actually have a Priest at the moment, but it's pretty much the same thing. These are the spells that I currently know, and these are the spells that are currently memorized. So I can actually use them. The way that you can switch around whatever I want, but if a spell, if I switch around, I won't remember that spell. And the way to remember those spells is to rest. When you rest, all your spells that are memorized are refreshed. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. So these are the spells. Right-click, like anything else, tells me what it is. Tab will just say the name. Right-click gives me a description. And there's a lot of spells. You're going to have to learn most of them and understand what they do. Obviously, you'll remember as you play. And so don't worry about it. Just read them. You begin with not too much. You'll be fine. So that's the Mage Spells. There's up to level 9, and you won't reach level 9 because there's a level cap for Baldur's Gate 1, and Baldur's Gate 2 you will, and Priest Scrolls up to level 7. The last thing is obviously options. Here you can quit, save, load, whatever, and the options that we are going to talk about is gameplay. So when you press gameplay, you can assign keys. Doesn't really matter. We're not going to go into that because it's not really important. And what I want to talk about here is the difficulty tab, the difficulty slider, that is. And you can slide it. There's 5 levels, and you get a description here. So what I recommend is playing exactly here in the middle. Those are Baldur's Gate core rules. This is how the game should be played. It doesn't give you any discounts. It's serious. It doesn't do anything to help you out. This is the game. It's not easy, but that's how the game should be played. Any harder than that, to the right, just gives monsters do more damage. It's not really relevant. And the bottom actually helps you out in all kinds of things, such as if you go down to normal, which is this area, one to the left, all hit points rolls are maximum. Characters cannot die permanently. It helps you out a little bit. It's kind of a easier way to play the game, but again, I recommend sticking with the core rules. The other thing I want to talk about right here is rest until healed. So resting, the main thing that resting does is refresh your spells. But obviously you do heal, but not to the maximum all the time. If you click this, you won't rest the normal 8 hours that it takes you to refresh your spells. You might rest more than that in order to also heal up. So you might rest 16 hours or usually in a multiple of 8 until you're fully healed and all of your spells are refreshed. I recommend having this ticked. So we also have 2 more things. Feedback. Feedback is exactly as it sounds. If you remember, in the actual game screen, we saw that little bar that told us what the hell's going on. So all these things refer to that. There's a huge rule set behind the game. And it does everything automatically. I mean, everything, it's a computer-based. You don't actually have to roll the dice. There's actually dice in the rule set. The thing is that sometimes you want to see these things. Personally, since I know what everything means, in most cases at least, I want to have as much information as I possibly can. So everything is ticked off, and these sliders, this is actually the maximum the slider can get. It can't get any further than that. I suggest at least starting like this. If you get a ton of information, you have no idea what it means and don't care, then you can tick things off. I recommend having everything ticked on and the sliders at the rightmost position. Other than that, we have auto pause. Again, pausing, spacebar is the most important thing in Baldur's Gate, so you know how to do it all the time. And auto pausing is also very important. As an example, trap found, you want the game immediately pausing because automatically is faster than your reaction time. And if you're walking, your character is walking and there's suddenly a trap in front of you, but they're going to walk on top of that, you want the game to automatically pause so you can reassign, you can tell them to stop moving. So trap found, very important. Enemy sighted, very important. Character death, obviously. Another very important one is weapon unusable, because you can actually keep attacking and doing 0 damage even if you hit if your weapon is unusable, so you obviously want to be notified of that happening and not let your characters just do nothing. Character injured will only tell you if the character is injured below 30% of their HP. That means they're really, really low on health and they should retreat. This is also important. And center and party members means that whatever party member triggered the auto pause, the camera will automatically center on him, so that's very comfortable. The other things I recommend not having ticked on, because then your game won't actually run. It'll keep pausing because character hit and character attacked. That's all the time. So the other ones, this is, again, personal preference, but that's how I play. I mean, I really think that you don't want the game pausing every second. You want to be pausing it every second if you need to. So that's the options tab. We're going to go back to the gameplay tab. And we've talked about pretty much everything here. There are 2 buttons over here at the bottom where my face hides them. One of them is click everyone. It's just holds your entire party. This is equal. It's the same as the equals key on your keyboard, so it's not really useful. And another button here that you cannot see is AI on or off. We talked about AI automatically keeps attacking or just stands there unless you tell them what to do, they're just going to stand there. Doesn't really matter if it's on or off in most cases. I don't really notice the difference, but whatever. We do have 4 other things here. The first thing here is, on the bottom here, is day 1, hour 7. This obviously, day 1, it refers to the beginning of the game. When you start a game, it's day 0, hour 0. There are 24 hours in a day, and it'll progress from there. Time obviously has meaning in some ways in the game, so that's just if you want to know what day it is. And then we have the quick save, which is Q, or you can press it. That's quick saves and quick loads by pressing L. And we have, for some reason, the label is rest. There are bugs in this game. There are bugs. It's not perfect, even though it's an enhanced edition. But this actually doesn't really tell you anything. It just gives you a label to a button, which you can do by pressing tab. So I don't really understand this help button because it doesn't really help. You can't press anything here. But whatever. And the other thing here is rest. Again, if I'll just try and rest right now. Since I'm resting outside and I'm healed up, I'll see the nice animation. I'm probably going to rest for 8 hours, or some monster is going to jump at me. You're rested for 8 hours, okay. If I'll keep doing it, a gibberling, which is just a really small little monster, will probably jump at me or something like that. So this has been the UI part of Baldur's Gate, my tutorials. Part 2 is going to be about the numbers. We're going to talk about what the hell all those numbers that you sign, the records, and the inventory screen are, and hopefully that'll explain how to play the game better. And the third part is going to be tips for anything else that I want to say. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this has been helpful, and see you. Go play Baldur's Gate, man. Or woman. Or whatever. Bye.